Before Rockefeller, before Carnegie, before Bezos or Musk, there was a man who made them all look poor. He didn't just build a business, he built the system that built America. Every ship that sailed, every train that roared, every factory that rose from dust, all of it in some way flowed through his empire. His name was Cornelius Vanderbilt, and his story is the blueprint of American wealth itself. Vanderbilt was born in 1794 on Staten Island, New York, into a world that had no place for him. His family was poor, his home small, his life ordinary. His father ferried passengers across New York Harbor. There was no silver spoon, just a wooden oar. At 11, Cornelius left school for good. Education was a luxury. Work was survival. Every day he watched ships cross the harbor, watched the rhythm of tides, the flow of goods, and the movement of money. He didn't know it yet, but he was studying the mechanics of capitalism. By 16, he borrowed $100, about $2,000 in today's money, to buy a small sailboat. With that, he started moving people and cargo between Staten Island and Manhattan faster and cheaper than anyone else. He worked long days, slept little, and learned that small profits multiplied by speed and volume could beat wealth and privilege. People called him Commodore, half insult, half awe. But the name stuck. He soon realized that transportation wasn't just about boats. It was about control of movement. Whoever controlled how people and goods moved controlled everything else. In an age before telegraphs, before cars, before planes, control of movement was control of the future. By his 20s, Vanderbilt had moved from sailboats to steamships. He understood before most that steam power would replace the wind. It was faster, more reliable, and unstoppable. He joined forces with established figures like Robert Livingston and Thomas Gibbons, but partnerships could never contain him. He was too ambitious, too ruthless, and too efficient to serve anyone else's interests. When New York tried to give exclusive ferry rights to a monopoly, Vanderbilt ignored the law. He cut fares, raced illegally, and outperformed every rival. He was fearless. His defiance sparked one of the most important Supreme Court cases in American history, Gibbons versus Ogden, which ended monopolies on waterways and opened interstate commerce to free competition. The decision unlocked the American economy, and Vanderbilt was at its front. By the 1830s, he dominated shipping on the East Coast. He built sleek, fast steamships that ran with military precision. His reputation grew, part genius, part pirate. Passengers trusted his name, competitors cursed it. He was not a man of refinement, but a man of results. His methods were simple but brutal. He'd rather run ships at a loss than let a rival survive. He'd undercut, outlast, and overwhelm any challenger. He demanded discipline, speed, and absolute loyalty. He once said, "If I were to be in sympathy with my competitors, I'd be ruined." That was not bravado. It was belief. When the California gold rush hit in 1849, Vanderbilt saw another opportunity. Thousands of Americans were desperate to reach California, but the journey around South America took months. Vanderbilt found a faster way, across Nicaragua. He built the Accessory Transit Company, ferrying passengers from New York to the Caribbean, overland across Central America, and then up the Pacific to San Francisco. The route was twice as fast and half as expensive. He earned millions. But power attracts betrayal. His partners in Nicaragua cheated him, taking control of the company while he was away. Vanderbilt didn't waste time with courts. He sent a single letter. "Gentlemen, you have undertaken to cheat me. I will not sue you, for the law is too slow. I will ruin you." Within 2 years, he did. His rivals went bankrupt, his company was restored, and his legend hardened. By the 1850s, steamships had made him a millionaire many times over. Yet while others grew comfortable, Vanderbilt grew restless. The age of iron was coming. He saw that railroads were the future, faster, farther, and not bound by water. Once again, he pivoted when others hesitated. In his 60s, when most men retired, Vanderbilt sold his ships and poured his fortune into railroads. He began buying small, struggling lines around New York, the Harlem Railroad, the Hudson River Line, the New York Central. Piece by piece, he built an empire of iron and steam. He didn't invent trains, he invented the network. His genius wasn't in the railroads themselves, but in how he organized them. He merged competing lines into one efficient system, cut waste, standardized schedules, and introduced the kind of discipline that made his ships legendary. For the first time, passengers could travel from New York to Chicago without changing trains. The Vanderbilt system transformed American commerce. Farmers in the Midwest could ship crops to the East in days instead of weeks. Factories could move raw materials and finished goods at speeds never seen before. The nation's arteries pulsed with Vanderbilt's trains. But every empire creates enemies. In 1868, Vanderbilt faced his greatest challenge, the Erie War. Two ambitious financiers, Jay Gould and Jim Fisk, plotted to take control of the Erie Railroad, one of the few Vanderbilt didn't yet own. They printed fake stock certificates, bribed politicians, and used loopholes to flood the market. Vanderbilt bought millions of shares, only to realize much of it was counterfeit. Newspapers turned the battle into spectacle. Judges were bribed, mobs filled Wall Street, and the Commodore's temper became legend. He lost an estimated $7 million in the fight, but his response became iconic. "What do I care about the law? Ain't I got the power?" To Vanderbilt, law was a tool for weaker men. Power was what mattered, and he still had plenty of it. Despite setbacks, Vanderbilt continued to expand his control. He built the New York Central and Hudson River Railroad, linking New York and Chicago, and modernized the infrastructure of an entire nation. He built Grand Central Depot in Manhattan, one of the largest and most advanced train stations in the world. It became the beating heart of America's industrial age. By the early 1870s, Vanderbilt was in his 70s and worth more than $100 million, over $300 billion today. Every major railroad from New York to the Midwest passed through his control. Every ton of coal, every shipment of steel, every barrel of oil depended on his tracks. Vanderbilt wasn't just part of the system. He was the system. He was blunt, unpolished, and feared. He distrusted politicians, despised lawyers, and never forgot where he came from. He once said, "I don't care half so much about making money as I do about making my point." And his point was always control. In his personal life, he was as ruthless as in business. His wife, Sophia, died after more than 50 years of marriage, and soon after, he married a woman half his age, shocking polite society. Of his 13 children, he trusted only one, William. He gave him nearly the entire fortune, cutting out the others. He believed most of his children were too soft, too spoiled to manage what he had built. When Cornelius Vanderbilt died in 1877, the world took notice. The Commodore had started with a borrowed boat and ended as the richest man in America. He left behind an empire of iron rails and a family that would soon crumble under its own weight. William Vanderbilt doubled the fortune, proving that the Commodore's instincts lived on in at least one heir. But later generations cared more for luxury than legacy. The Vanderbilt mansions on Fifth Avenue and in Newport became symbols of excess, gilded palaces built on ambition, and eventually emptied by time. Within 2 generations, the family fortune had scattered. The irony was perfect. The man who built the most enduring system of wealth created a fortune that could not endure. Yet Vanderbilt's influence never vanished. His principles shaped modern capitalism. The efficiency, the consolidation, the relentless competition, these became the DNA of American industry. Every logistics network, every global supply chain, every algorithm that moves goods and money today can trace its logic back to Vanderbilt's obsession. That movement is money, and control is power. He didn't invent a product or create a brand. He built the system that made brands possible. He turned geography into profit and movement into empire. His name may be forgotten by most, but his impact is everywhere. In every shipment that arrives on time, every connection made faster, every economy built on motion. Cornelius Vanderbilt was not loved. He wasn't gentle, generous, or noble, but he understood something few men ever have: that the world rewards those who can move it. He rose from nothing, built everything, and disappeared into history's shadows. Yet the trains still run. The networks still pulse. The system he created still powers the nation. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the forgotten millionaire who built America's wealth machine. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more untold histories of money, power, and the people who shaped the modern world. This video is for educational purposes only. Always do your own research before making financial decisions.